Hello, how is everyone doing on Facebook and YouTube and even Twitch? So, we are here today with a brand new product that is called WPLytic. It is an analytics system for WordPress, a hosted system. So, this has a lot of benefit. Like, look at Google Analytics. So, the primary concern is GDPR and privacy concern. So, we will go through that. But before that, say hi to Christian. How are you doing, man?
Hello, hi to your community. I'm very good. Looking
Yep.
forward to the stream.
So it says midday, if I'm not mistaken, right? So let me tell a little bit of what Christian been doing all along. So he has been in this industry for more than 13 years now and doing a lot of WordPress projects. And from that, this has evolved over time, WPLytic, which is a very lightweight. And from my initial perspective, it is very lightweight. And you can have multiple domain assigned to it depending on the licenses. And it is hosted. So all the data is on your side. You can do whatever or how long you want to keep the data and how secure you want to keep it. So I will give the microphone to Christian so he can tell the story how it came about, and then we go from there. Go ahead.
So, hi, I'm Christian. I'm the founder of WPLytic. So, WPLytic is a new product from us, but we've been in the industry, as Ruhani said, for like 13 plus years. I personally am a competitive programmer at heart, so I used to go to a lot of programming contests. So I'm very interested in solving performance issues and making things as fast as possible. And in our like 13 years of development, we also worked on different analytics platforms, which are not specifically for WordPress. And we realized there's a gap in the space for self-hosted WordPress analytics platforms that are really easy to install and that store all the data locally. So I think there's some analytics platforms that you install, but there is still a third-party service where all your data is sent to different servers. And lately, with all the GDPR changes, this makes it really hard to actually use that platform in a legal way and without having to show a lot of consent pop-ups. So with WPLytic, we started creating last year. The initial product version was released. So we started creating a platform that's dedicated for WordPress. It's still in the incipient phase. It has a lot of systems that were built over the last 10 years, but a lot of WordPress integrations are just being built. So this is just the start of the road. It's already a really good platform to use, but this is the start of the road I think what we really hope it's going to be like the go-to WordPress analytics platform in the future. I don't know.
Thank you so much, Christian. So you can see that this is a space that hasn't been touched, even though there are thousands of like 50,000 WordPress plugins, but not many in the analytics space. If you look at, I'm not sure, maybe Christian can tell me that how many actually solid analytics plugin for WordPress. Do you know, like the number, maybe 3 or 4? Is it correct?
There's a few, and usually like the issue is with the way they're selling it. Most of them try to sell you something else that's not really self-hosted. So this even even if they like give you something for free, usually it's not good enough. So then you have to pay for their extra services.
Yes, it's a freemium model. So basically, to capture the user into their system, and so they give a very limited scope of what you can use. Hey, thank you everyone for joining. I can see I'm Tall Boy, Victor, Mabel, Albert. Thank you so much, everyone. And so Christian is going to show us that how light and fast this product is and what are the benefits, especially on the privacy side, that how it can benefit you or an agency that they are deploying this data, because these data also being used for data analysis, for marketing purposes. That okay, so why my website didn't do good last year, or last month, then what should I need to do and do that analysis? So there are some future plans that Christian already put in, which is fantastic. I will let him tell those stories. So before we go into show and tell and go through the interface, I will let Christian tell a little bit more story that, what are the benefits and the advantages if it is hosted, because a lot of people can ask that whether it will overlap the database size or similar things. So yeah, go ahead.
Of course. So this is actually, I think this is more of a new industry trend. It was actually old because initially everything was self-hosted and then everything moved to SaaS. And I think there's a trend where everything is moving back to self-hosted because of all the privacy issues with all the new privacy laws, and also the costs, because you pay for a service like 100, like $500 per month, or if you have like more analytics data, that if you had your own server, it would just cost like $10 per month or something like that. So the difference is cost is also very big. There's also a lot of different things that you have to consider when you have your data self-hosted. So one issue, for example, in giving your data to Google Analytics is that they might use that data for advertising, because then Google
Yes.
knows all your visitors, where they come from, and then they have this visitor ID, and then they can show them ads to your competitor. So if you have Google Analytics on your website, then like Google cannot do like to show your competitor's product instead of yours in ads,
Yes.
because they have
Yes.
this information. And apart from this, then you're also, when you're using a hosted, like on a third-party platform, then the data is on their servers. And let's also give Google Analytics as example. Google, you have a Google account. If your Google account is banned, for example, on a different platform like YouTube, you post like a bad YouTube comment, then your whole Google account gets locked. Then you
Yep.
lose also all your analytics data, and then there's no way of getting it back. So the advantage with the hosted analytics platform is that all your data stays for yourself. So no data is shared with third parties, and you also always have access to it. You can download it. You can like save it locally for forever. You can put it on a hard disk if you want to have it 20
Yeah,
years
you
from now.
you can store it however you want once it's downloaded, right?
Yeah, and it's also like it's stored in a simple MySQL database. We didn't use any fancy ClickHouse or more complex setups, which are maybe a bit more efficient, but they're very hard to set up and maintain. And they're really only useful if you have like hundreds of millions of visitors per month, which very few companies have. For like a low amount of traffic, like a MySQL works very good. And then because it's so well supported, you can also integrate it with a lot of other tools. For example, there's tools that allow you to create custom dashboards that connect to your own MySQL database. So if you have this data, you can then create different like charts and graphs, and even integration like Zapier, for example, then
Yeah.
it can connect to like a simple MySQL database. And once you have the data, you can do whatever you want with it. You can like download it. And this is one of the big advantages of self-hosted. So
Yeah, definitely.
I could go on forever. I guess that the disadvantage is that you do have this data on your own server. So maybe you need like some storage space to store it. But we try to make it as efficient as possible because we're self-hosted only. There's also other platforms which offer a cloud solution and a self-hosted solution, but the self-hosted one is usually has less features, and it's not really easy to maintain because their goal is to sell their SaaS offering. So they do offer you something that you can use yourself, but they don't want to make it too easy. Otherwise, they lose their entire business. So our business model is self-hosted only. So we focus on making the platform as easy to install and as easy to maintain as possible. So there should be less worries. We also provide support. If you encounter any issues when using the self-hosted version, we can provide support for installation
I
and
think one of
maintenance.
the key highlights is actually it's a very GDPR compliance. Like really, it is private because it is you are hosting the entire structure of the records, and you can do. I mean, when people ask that if your data is secure or whether you're selling it to anybody else, if you have that policy on your side, so you're not selling anything. It's not Google. You don't
Of
have
course, yeah.
access to all those things that you can sell to other advertisers and competitors.
Yeah, of course. So the main problem with GDPR is not companies storing data, is sharing it with other companies. So the main thing about GDPR is about sharing the data to third parties.
Yes,
So
yes,
this is
and
why the law was released initially. Not that the companies were getting data and using it for themselves. It was sharing it for like ad purposes or like sharing it to other companies to sell you stuff. So with WPLytic, the data stays with you. So there's a lot like it's a lot more privacy friendly than
mhm,
privacy friendly solutions that are out there, which are still a service because you send your data to them.
yeah, and also, so for example, there are other tools like dashboard tools. Can we communicate with this data set if we want to display statistics in a different tool? For example, there was a dashboard tool called um, what was the name? So they can use connectors to create graph and statistics dashboard uh, from data sources. Will that
I
be
know
possible?
it's called I know one is called Chartbrew, which is
Yes, yes,
there's multiple different ones, and they also have a self-hosted version if you want. So you can use their service to generate different dashboards and graphs.
nice.
You can also get their self-hosted version, and then again you don't send any data.
So I'm collecting. There is a lot of questions in the stream. I'm collecting them, so we will surface these during the Q&A session. And guys, do remember there is a multi-site license that is going for giveaway. There is only one, and for this show, Christian is going to pick the best questions, best question from the stream. So you better ask good questions that has that tickled his mind that this was a good question. If he can remember at the end of the show which question was that, and he is the winner, he or she is the winner. So keep that in mind. So this round we are doing a little bit different to bring in a little bit more engagement. So thank you for all the questions. So I think at this point, uh, Christian can go and start the show and tell, and then from there we can go forward. What do you think? You can share your screen, and I will pull it up on the stream.
Okay, let me see. Screen sharing. Share. Wait 1 second.
Thank you, guys.
Just
I see a lot of familiar faces: Asif, Jonathan, Victor, Leo. Leo is actually he's one of the lead organizer of WordCamp Malaysia. So he has all the good questions as well.
okay. I put on the second monitor. Okay, that should be good. I share my screen.
Okay. I'm going to show this right now. Okay, let me just remove this caption. Where is the okay? Okay.
Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna start with how you get to this dashboard. So you
Sorry.
have your normal WordPress admin panel, and the WPLytic is a WordPress plugin. So just go to plugins, install, and add new plugin, and then you select the archive you upload, and then you'll get access to this dashboard. So first of all, we decided we might change it to not show all the data here, to just have it in a different screen because it looks a lot nicer when you have all the screen estate. And there's also some tracking settings, those are just some helpers by default. So you can choose to track everyone or logged in users or admins because sometimes you don't want to track your own sessions. So this is the entire setup of the product. You just add the plugin and then everything works. So you don't have to add any tracker, change any settings, log in or anything. It just works. It starts tracking automatically. And then if you click to open the dashboard, you get to your main dashboard. And here, this is a multi-domain version of WPLytic, so you can have multiple websites. Here you can see the stats for all your domains. Currently, I only have added one, but you can add more domains. And if you want to add another domain, like site2.com, you're going to add a new domain, and then you're prompted to add this tracking script. So this is similar to Google Analytics. If you want to track a new domain, you just install a tracking script on all the pages of that domain. You just add this, and then all the data will be sent automatically to this dashboard. Let's remove this domain. Here in the main dashboard, what's nice is that you can see the stats for all your domains at once. So you have like 5 websites. You can see also the historic. I think this is last 2 weeks data, the visitors in the last 24 hours, but also the real-time visitors on the website. This is actually pretty cool to have a dashboard where you see the number of all the visitors currently browsing all your websites. And then you can dive into a specific website. So those are the stats for our main website. You get all the basic stats for a website analytics platform: visits, page views, session length, bounce rate, and then the top referrals, so you know where your traffic is coming from, the top pages of your website, the countries. So WPLytic doesn't use any third-party services. For example, for the country, the geolocation, it also uses a local GeoIP database. So there's no request to IP to location service. So the visitor location is also, everything is done on your own server. There's no third-party request. So those are the main stats. We're gonna get back to it if you want more in-depth look, but my favorite screen is the visitor screen, where you can actually see a list of all the sessions that visited your website. For me, this is my favorite way to check how a website is doing, because at a quick glance, you can see where your traffic is usually coming from, what pages are they visiting, how much they're staying, their devices. You can show more stats, and you can see the dashboard like loads very fast, and even though all the data is real time, so there's no caching. If a new visitor visits the site, then the data is immediately available. I think with other platforms they have like some caching mechanism. So here you can see all your visitors, and what's my favorite part is that we implemented the segments features where you can filter the data in your dashboard. So let's see, I want only the sessions of this user. I click on it, and then I see all the sessions. He only visited once, but it automatically adds to this segment. Let's see, we want all the sessions that came from this website, FIY.cool. So if I click on this refer, then we only see all the sessions that came from this refer. So you just need to do one click. And what's even cooler, if you go to the main stats, now those stats are also filtered by the same filter that you selected. So now we just see the stats of users that came from this referrer. Then we can see which pages they visited, the user that came from here, which countries they came from. Okay, you can also do the same with like the visit pages, so you can see all the users that visited this specific page. And for example, if we have the data, so all the users that visited this website, and we wanted to compare it to all users, we can create a new segment. Let's name is FIY. I don't know exactly what's the website from, but so if we remove the segment, then you can actually compare segments.
The
you can
FYY website is mine. It's a link short. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So you can see that all the users now are coming from your link. So now you can easily compare like all the stats. You can see we have 559 visits and 21 were from FIY. And you can also compare it in the graph. You can compare it by hour. Oops, there's the interval. This is for 2 weeks. That's doing just in the last 2 days. Yeah, so you can see that like in the last hour, almost all visits came from the FIY, right? Let's remove this one. So this is the main thing. So you get stats. You get stats for all your domains, stats for an individual domain. This is still filtered by hour. Stats for individual domain. And then you can also dive deeper to see individual sessions for each domain. And then you can filter those sessions with this segment features, which are pretty proud of because it's like so simple to use. You just click on stuff and then data is filtered. There's not a lot of like conditions and buttons.
Do you want
And
to show them the settings?
yeah, sure. So this is for the stats. There's more things like you have a lot of different filters that you can use: country, fair, IP, session length. You can, for example, see all your visitors that came from visit. So if the referrer is, I don't know, if the referrer contests google.com, then you can see all the sessions that came from google.com. And you can see all the data loads pretty much instantly, even though this is hosted on a cheap VPS. So it's pretty performant. So you have settings. So this is the multi-domain version. You have tracking settings. You can choose to only track a percentage of the visitors. So if you have a lot of visitors, millions, and you only care like approximate stats, you can choose to only record the percentage. You can disable tracking on mobile devices, ignore specific IP addresses or IP ranges. I think this one that's automatically added is from the Google bot. So it automatically ignores the visits that came from the Google bot IP. There's the GeoIP database, which normally comes with a country level location. So you can see the country of the visitor. But if you click this button, it automatically downloads a city level database. So you can see the country and the city of each visitor. You can automatically remove query parameters from the URL. This is good also for a privacy feature because sometimes in the URL it might contain sensitive data. So you can ignore specific query parameters. You also see the size of the database. So currently the database only uses 5 megabytes, which is mostly nothing, as most even shared hostings come with like 10, 20 gigabytes of database. Then, because this is a multi-domain version, you can have multiple domains and multiple users. So you can give access to different users to different domains. So you can create, let's say I want the user John, I can add a password. So then you have a new user. You can change their access level. Currently, this is not well documented, but we're working on it. 0 is like read only, so they can only see the data. And 5 is like admin, where they can add other users and add new domains. And we have the user John, and then you can just give him access to the data of an existing domain. So if you add John to see the data from WPLytic, you just add the data to him. This track is already added. And then, yeah, John can go. I don't know if I can show the login screen, but then you can just send the URL of your dashboard, and they can log in with this username and password, and they're gonna see this data. So now I'm gonna delete this user. We also provide some privacy issues because they're privacy focused. You can choose to store the entire IP of the user or just a hash of the IP address. So it doesn't show the entire IP, it's just a obfuscated version of it. If you do store the entire IP, you can choose to show only part of it in the dashboard. So in the database, you have all the IP, but in the UI, you can show only half of it. You can choose to respect the browser do not track flag. This is a flag that some browsers use to opt out of analytics. It's not really well standardized now, but we do support it. You can show a tracking consent pop-up if you want to only track the user if they accept a pop-up. And those last two settings are just for your own privacy to have the dashboard not send any request to our server. So the only request we send to our server is to check if there's a new WPLytic version available. So if there's a new version, then you can automatically download it from the updates panel. So here you add your license key, and if there's a new version, you can always update to the latest version in one click. Because with other self-hosted analytics platform, like with updates, they have like a really long process of updating, but we try to make everything automatic. So it migrates the database, it migrates all your settings to the new version. And currently, like in our last 10 years of launching updates for other products, we I don't think we ever had an update that broke the version in any way. We never had an update that broke it in
I
any
think
way,
that
and
is
even
very
if
important. Yeah, that is very important. That every update, it should not break down the system.
I drop my headphone. Yeah, this is also why being self-hosted only, we really try to make sure that the update experience and you also provide support. So in case like something breaks or like something doesn't work with your specific server, we do provide support for that. So just send us, hey, I updated and then I received the server, we send us an email and then we respond within like 24 hours to solve your issue. But that's this rarely happens because the stack is very simple. It uses like MySQL, which doesn't break that often, and PHP, which again is not like a server that can crash, so it doesn't affect other parts of your website.
Okay, thank you.
And
So this is one of the key things to notice is that this is very slim in a sense that it's fast execution and it has its own panel, right? You can see the panel right here. And today, remarkably, we have more than 42 questions pending right now. And each of the questions, I have to give respect to the community that they have very solid questions. And what it did that now I cannot ask any questions because they have asked all these questions. So amazing job from the community. And what I will do, if it is almost done, then we go into the Q&A section. I will still keep your screen because you might need to show something.
yeah,
Or do you want to show something first? Oh, just now you selected the time frame, right? That was pretty
yes,
neat.
yes, you can select between the session.
Ah,
And sometimes you want to ignore 0 seconds sessions. I mean,
yes.
I already saw one question. It was about bot filtering. So we do have some bot filtering settings, but sometimes you still have sessions of 0 seconds, which are users that don't really load your website entirely.
Hmm.
And sometimes you want to filter those. But this is why you can filter only sessions that are
Yes.
over 1 second.
So you
And
only get the
sometimes,
real data that people actually spend time on your site, like at least
yes,
20-second, 50-second, or few minutes. You can actually set the boundary that which segment, which realistic segment you want to check.
yes, because the problem was, for example, when I tried Google Ads or Facebook ads, especially Facebook ads, a lot of the visitors they send, they're actually bots. There's other like ClickFunnels, which are
Hmm.
actual PC devices, so it's not enough to have a bot filter because
Yeah.
they're pretty smart and have actual devices browsing your website, but they don't do any actions. So those
Yes.
are still like 0 second visits, even if it's a real device. So this also helps if you run an ad campaign and you want to see exactly how many actual visitors you get, then you can filter only from like 1 second.
Great. So if you don't have anything else to show, do you want to show anything special, especially for the marketing or segmentation?
Not really, also because I don't have a lot of data on this survey
Okay.
that I'm showing.
Okay. Okay. So we move on to the Q&A section. There is a lot of questions, nearly 50 now, and I will go through it. Let me just go through it from top to bottom. Okay, so Mabel asked that WPLytic uses around 1 MB of database storage for each 1000 session tracked. Can the data be downloaded and then we clean based on certain data criteria? I guess that is what she asked.
Yeah, that's a good question because it's self-hosted, so all your data will stay on your server. And if you run the platform for many years, you might be concerned that the database size grows very large. So we do provide, if you want to remove all data, we do provide some cron jobs that you can use. For example, you can say every night at midnight, I want to delete all data older than 6 months.
Mhm.
This to make sure that you only have like the last 6 months data and your database size doesn't grow. It's also MySQL database. So if you want to download it, you can export your MySQL database. There's various ways. There's a lot of tools to export data from MySQL. I think even WordPress, there's definitely tools to just download the data from WordPress.
Yeah.
And then you can have it like even locally on your own computer. You can install like something like PHP MyAdmin on your own computer, and then you can have all your data local. I mean, you can even install this because it's self-hosted. You can install it
Yeah.
on your own computer, so you can have like the data on your server. Maybe it tracks the last, I don't know, 3 months on your server, and then if you want, you can download the data on your own computer and have all like the big data locally on your own computer, and only like a small size in your hosted server.
So I'm Talboy asked, with your service, what separates you from Google Analytics? Of course, is the primarily, of course, your data security. You own the data. Google doesn't see the data, or they cannot see the data. That should be the primary. And of course, you can have your own control over it.
That's the main thing. And there's, I think, two other things. First of all, is the interface is a lot like simpler and focused on the core things. I think one issue with Google Analytics, from what I've seen, like normal people trying to use it, is that they provide like so many options and buttons and creating complicated filters that are nice if you're a data analyst, but for most people, they just get lost in all the options. So I try to make the interface like simple to use and very intuitive. And another one, I think it's also performance. For me personally, like Google Analytics, when I try to load something, it always takes like 5 seconds for the data to be loaded. But in my experience, like the self-hosted dashboard is usually a lot faster. Usually data is instant and in real time.
Okay, how does WPLytic handle data security, and what measures are in place to protect user data from potential breaches or unauthorized access? So what I can think of, because your site is hosted on WordPress, right? So before we go to WPLytic database security, whether your WordPress is protected or not. So if you have a good server, security, and your WordPress is protected from the base, then this should not come into the picture, because it will depend. It is sitting on your same database where your WordPress tables are. So they have separated tables in the same database. So if that database is exposed beforehand, like your site was not secured or not protected, and the attacker get access to the tables, yes, they can see any tables on that database. So it will depend that how secure is your WordPress installation as well.
Yes, that's mostly it. And the only thing that WPLytic, I mean, it has its own like login system and scripts, which are secure, but we're also working on adding more security features like access logs. So you can see the users that log in to your dashboard when logged in. But yeah, as Rohani said, the main thing is if your WordPress is secure, then this is also secure. Because if you have WooCommerce, then you already have all your customer data on your own website.
Yes.
More sensitive data than we are tracking. So yeah, it's the same level of security. You
Okay,
can
so
even like store it on a different server if you're more worried about security,
yeah.
but it's same as WordPress.
So to follow up with that previous question, I actually had a question that, can I remotely put into a different MySQL server? For example, my WordPress database in DB01, and I want to put the analytics DB in DB02. Will that be possible?
So it's not out of the box, but it's self-hosted, and the database connection is in a simple file where you just now it uses the same database connection as WordPress.
Yeah.
But in theory, you can change that. Like if you have any like questions like this, like slide customizations, you can contact support, and we're gonna respond with the. Usually those are they're like 1 or 2 lines of code where you can just change the connection info to a separate database.
Okay, so Mabel asked, if we want to track subdomain, would it be counted as another site?
So if you want, yes. So for example, now we have WPLytic, and let's see, we want to add the, I don't know, shop.wplytic.com. Then you'll see the data like separately.
Okay.
It's just like another domain.
No, but I think from what she's asking is whether it will take up another license.
So this is like multi-site. So the
Mm-hmm.
multi-site here, you can track unlimited domains on this installation.
Mm-hmm.
So here you can track any subdomains, domains. And there's also a single site version, which is installed once. So there you don't have the option to choose like the domain. It just
Right.
is installed on the current WordPress site. So you don't
Yeah.
have like this. You don't have this to select the domain because it's only for this current domain, and you don't have this multi. Right? I'm not sure, but for that one, yes, it will be different one. If it's a different WordPress installation,
Yeah.
then you have to add the plugin there on that installation too. And there's that license is only for
Yeah.
one website. So one license, one installation.
So, is she correct or not? I mean, if it is a single site, they cannot use subdomain. They can, right?
If it's
Is
a
it
different
a single
WordPress
license,
installation,
right? Single site license. Can I use WPLytic.com in a single license and shop.wplytic.com?
okay. So this is something I have to note down because
Mm.
we didn't really consider it. Normally it was from one domain, so one installation. So if you have the subdomain, it's another different installation. Then so
Yeah.
we don't really care about the domain name. If it's a subdomain or a different domain, if
Yeah.
it's a different installation, then they're considered to be different. But I'm gonna write it down and think about it. If there are use
Yeah.
cases when people use subdomain and it's actually the same installation.
So Jonathan asked that can you track watch time on videos?
So we do have, if I go to the documentations, we do have. So if you go to docs data polypolitic, it's still under working, so you don't have
Mm-hmm.
everything documented. But we do have two features, which are tags and events. So events are usually stored for tracking e-commerce data,
Mm-hmm.
but you can also track events like video watch time. So or even with tags, you can do that. But you do have, it's not automatic. So there's not a checkbox with charge video tab. You have to add like one line of JavaScript. It's usually. So with video, it's, again, we're going to provide more examples. So a video depends on the video. If it's like YouTube or Vimeo, if you get access to it,
Mm-hmm.
so then it gets more complicated. If it's just an MP4, so you need a video tag in HTML, it's like one add of coin. You can add event listener when the video is like played or paused. You can send an event with video paused at or like video watched until. So you can track events, but you have to add some JavaScript. We might add support in the future,
Mm-hmm.
but we try to keep the product, like the core product, as lean as possible.
Yeah.
I think what we usually do, we add more like tutorials on our docs. So if you want something, then you can just like copy paste what's interested for you, what's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. You can just copy paste the code that tracks the video time.
So
So
Asif is asking.
it's possible.
Yeah. Sorry, I stopped. Please finish your part.
No, that was mostly it. So it's possible, but not out of the box. Not there's not one button. You
Okay.
have to add some extra code.
So Asif is asking how big is your team and when you have started working on this.
Okay, so our team is still pretty small. We're if it goes well, we're planning to grow. So we have I'm the founder and also the lead developer. We have Jamie working on marketing. We have someone helping out with all the sales and an accountant, and then we have some freelancers helping with the design and some small development tasks, like helping us with some WordPress integrations. We do plan to add more people to the team starting with next year. This is also why we're trying to launch the product now publicly, so we can see what people want and exactly what we need for the team. There's no need to hire someone in a specific department if it turns out the people's concerns are completely different.
Yep.
We did start on the project, on this specific project. We started like 2 years ago. there was an initial release last year, which was more like an alpha release, and this year this is more like the public release. So now we're promoting the product to everyone. But this product is also based on like other plugins that we wrote, also other analytics plugins that were developed for like 13 years now. So it's not like the coding for this project started 2 years ago. So I did talk to many customers before and did a lot of
So you
analytics.
actually did different analytics or probably for enterprises.
Yeah, so is focused on WordPress. It has something more
Mm-hmm.
complex. And this is more like the start of the road for this one because
Mm-hmm.
we want to really deeply integrate it with WordPress to like automatically track WooCommerce sales and like really integrate with other plugins and with the WordPress ecosystem.
Got
So
it.
it
Thank you.
works
Yeah.
without you having to add any settings.
So the next one will be, who are you trying to attract to purchase your product? Means who is your target audience? I think Asif also asked the similar question later on, but yeah, in a nutshell, who is your? I mean, who should buy these products?
Okay, so normal. I know this is not a good response, but it's like for everyone with a WordPress site.
Yeah.
This is also another reason why we want WordPress specific. Then we know exactly who are we targeting. We're targeting like WordPress owners, which have like a specific stack and specific needs, and they usually use like specific plugins. This is a lot easier also to develop the product for like a specific group of people. So it's people who own WordPress websites, but also like the multi-site one can also be used by agencies, which are again in the WordPress
Mm-hmm.
space, which have clients and they want to give access to stats for their clients. And then they just have their own platform and they just get the multi-site version and
Yes.
can share the stats for all their clients without having to
So if
again
I'm not
share the data with third
mistaken,
parties.
the multi-site version, right? You can actually use the tracking code in a non-WordPress site. Am I correct?
That's yes, that's true. So you can track any type of website where you can install a JavaScript snippet.
Yep. All
So
right. Cool.
if you have clients that just have a static website, I don't know, Next.js website, then you can also track that in this same domain. So you're just gonna see the stats here, and then you can give
Yep.
access to them for their static website. So with the question who the product is for, the multi-site was for also if you have multiple sites yourself, or if you're an agency, and then there's also the single site, which if you want to data to be even more private to just one single website, but it's mostly for website owners and it works for anything from static landing pages to like WooCommerce sites and yeah, if for blogs and whatever you want to track the data for if you have a WordPress site.
Yep. So Victor asked again, could you elaborate on the process of migrating from traditional analytics tools to WPLytic? And what benefits user can expect from making this transition?
Okay, so the benefits, as we mentioned, are mostly the comparison of self-hosted versus hosted, which I think takes a while to get used to the advantages to actually see, okay, I actually don't have to pay extra because I had more visitors this month, or they're not increasing my plan this month, or there's no like GDP like the Google Analytics changes where you had to with the GDPR that they sunset the Google Analytics universal tracking. So then everyone kind of lost all their data in tracking code and had to update everything and relearn how to track data. And with the self-hosted one, mostly it's once you get started with it, then you really don't have to worry anymore in the future for migrating because you also have the data and you don't really have to worry about like not being able to keep up to date with like law changes and the services changes and the company dying. Like for example, in our case, even if we do plan to grow and like sustain ourselves for a long time, but if for some reason our company disappears, you still have the product, you still have your data, you can still use it, and you're not gonna get locked out of your own dashboard.
Interesting. So Leo, I think he's coming from a very practical point of view, and this will be a very common question to ask. Even I had the same question, that if it is on a 2 GB VPS and a 50 GB SSD, and in some cPanel they also have 2 GB to 3 GB RAM and 2 processor, and might have 40 GB NVMe drive. So I mean, his actual question is, if if I use WPLytics for clients and they have a large amount of daily traffic, how long it will, how long the VPS will be able to handle this?
Okay, so it's two things. First is I think most important is the storage size, like how big the data goes, because at some point with MySQL, if you have a really big database, like tens of gigabytes, then querying does start to be a bit slower. So you might want to like remove all data, but normally from our test is like 1 million visitors per 1 GB. So it's like 50 gigabytes SSD. So I think the stats from this is like a $5 VPS per month or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So with 5 GB SSD, you can try like 50 million sessions.
Okay. That's not small also. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's
quite a lot.
reasonable if you
Yeah.
compare it to some platform that actually costs like hundreds of dollars per month to have 10 million sessions per
Mm.
month.
Actually,
So
when I
yeah.
did the data warehousing for Malaysian airport, we regularly did the trimming. Trimming means we keep the last this many months DB, but it depends. So there was a plan that we implemented, that the trim data, we actually transfer it back to a cold storage. Means we take the chunk of the old data and put it on the cold storage, and the recent data stays on the main
I
server.
think some people call this like archiving. So you take a part
Archiving,
of that
yes.
website and then you like archive that data.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a MySQL database, so you can do this. There's also like tools to do this. You can also provide like cron job snippets, because it's
Yep.
pretty easy. Just like export the data and then delete it from here. It's like a few lines of
So,
code. There's also like services. For example, you could use a service to backup your entire MySQL database,
mhm.
and then you can simply delete the data from this one. So you have the backup that keeps all the data, and then you just
Yep.
you delete the
I also did
old one.
replication. So replication is, I had like 3 backup servers, and from the MySQL, I backup into server 1, server 2, server 3 for redundancy, and then I trimmed it. So those data still live, and when I query the older data, my process actually goes back to look at server 2, 3, 4 when they
Oh, yeah,
couldn't find. Yeah, so those are replications.
that's cool.
There are multiple ways to tackle this. So
Yeah,
Asif was asking that, let's be honest, accuracy of data is most critical aspect of any analytics tool, which I agree. Google been in this business for a very long time. They have big team and resources to continue improve their analytics product. Considering all these, how will you convince users to choose your product over already established free
okay,
software?
so that's a good question, but to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, giving Google Analytics as a benchmark for accuracy is not really good, because in our
So they
test,
are
like
not accurate. I already know they are not accurate.
yeah, if you check, like there's a lot of blog posts comparing Google Analytics with other tools, and their data
Yes.
is like off by like 100%. Like they show twice as many visitors or twice as little. First of all, their tracker is blocked by most ad blockers, which
Yes.
is already you lose 50% of your sessions. There's a lot of spam in Google Analytics because people created bots to show
Mm-hmm.
like keyword spam in your dashboards, because it's so popular. Many times I go to see like my visitors, and all the visitors that I saw, they were like keyword spam. They're not real visitors. They're just people sending fake data to my
Mm-hmm.
Google Analytics instance. Okay, so in terms of data accuracy, in my experience, our self-hosted version is a lot more accurate than like many third-party services. First of all, it's usually not blocked by ad blockers. I mean, it's not blocked by default, and if you want to really go around that, you can just rename the JavaScript file. And we do have a bot filtering enabled, which filters bots by user agent. It uses JavaScript tracking for now. So bots that don't execute JavaScript are not tracked. So just ping bots and the data accuracy in general, it's good because but how you can check it, you can actually go to the visitors tab, and then you can see the real visitors, where they came from, what they did, and the accuracy. I'm pretty sure almost none of those stats are bots. So if you check, there's a person behind it from India that came from there with a specific offer
Time
code.
period. Yeah.
Yeah, time period, the resolution, and then you can see if they visit multiple times. So I click on this user, you can see they visited twice. Yeah, in my experience, it's one of the most accurate platforms I used because it's self-hosted. It's a lot less likely to be blocked or avoided, and you can also decide how you track. So you can make it as accurate as you want. You can if you care about privacy, you can respect the browser do not track flag, show tracking consent pop up, and disable tracking for some visitors. But if you want full accuracy, I think there was a suggestion that we had cookies. We don't have cookies. That's for visitors visiting multiple times. We still didn't add it, but you can still implement that manually if you want to know exactly if the same visitor visited. It's again, everything is usually one line of code. So you can store a cookie and then you can tag the visitor. So you can just tag the visitor as their username. So if the visitor is logged in, you can add the tag with the visitor name, which is usually stored in a cookie. And then you can see all the sessions that have this tag, which because you added it, it's usually a lot more accurate than some third-party service.
So the next question is, what are the customization options? I think you have already shown a bit of it, quite a lot of it. Sorry, that allows user to tailor analytics to their specific needs, ensuring they get a relevant and actionable data. I think he just shown it just few seconds before.
Filtering or the
It's not filtering. I think it's on the settings.
So yeah, there's two things: either the filtering, the data that comes in, or from the data that's already in. So let me see if I'm in the camera. Yeah. So from the data that you're already in, what you want to see. So this is for mostly filtering the data that comes in and how it's stored. Also here, you can ignore IP addresses and track specific URL parameters. You can also, there's also a small snippet to automatically specifically save some parameters like UTM. You want to store the UTM campaign in a tag, and then again, you can use that to filter. There's a lot of different ways you can decide which data is stored and which data is not, because it's self-hosted, so you can always add a filter if you want.
So Asif also asked, what is the purpose of adding ChatGPT with an analytics app? Actually, there is a lot. We can go about this for hours and hours. That you can ask anything. That okay, so which part of my site didn't do well in the last month? What was the comparison between my site did for the last month versus the last year, the same month? So all these kind of analysis can be funneled down through ChatGPT and bring it to you to give you a simplified humanized answer. So this is what we are getting accustomed nowadays, right?
Yeah. It's like having a data analyst that you just ask questions.
Exactly. That's the correct answer.
So we don't have ChatGPT. I like the question. Probably it's on the website that's coming soon. We're working on it. So you'll be able, as Ruhani said, to just ask questions like how many sales I had that came from TikTok. And then we don't send any data to ChatGPT. Again, all your data is stored locally. ChatGPT just generates the query for you. So it's like asking the data analyst, hey, generate me a query that answers this question. And then we'll execute that query and we show the results. You had the 30 sales last month where the referral was TikTok. So I think it can even be faster, even if you know how to write SQL. It's faster than writing it yourself, and might be even faster than having to go through the UI. it's a lot easier to ask questions. Like a lot of people now use ChatGPT for because it's just
Almost anything. Yeah.
yeah, it's just an interface. It's just the ease of use. You can just ask
Hmm.
for lazy people,
So
but
maybe I'll ask
we're only
if you do the ChatGPT integration, is it going to be bring your own key or you will provide the?
yes, it will be bring your own key. We don't.
Okay, cool.
We were
Um,
considering to. There's like some self-hosted ChatGPT alternatives that we might consider in the future once
yes.
they get better. So then you'll have your own like ChatGPT locally. So then you don't
Mhm.
even need an API. But for now, we're planning to use a ChatGPT key, your
I
own
was looking
ChatGPT.
at one of the agents, ChatGPT agents. They use the OpenAI API key or Open Router. I cannot pin down the name right now, but it can actually read database tables and Excel sheets and stuff. So when it's about database tables, you can do data analysis by your own.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice. For now, we plan to not give ChatGPT access to your database, just to the
Mm,
database structure. So the ChatGPT will know what tables you have,
mm,
and you can add description to, hey, here I store the visitors, here I store the
yeah,
referrals, and then the ChatGPT just tells you how to get the data. And it's it also saves you a lot more money
yeah.
when
So
you
Leo,
query ChatGPT.
so this one, can you quickly answer? Can we differentiate between new and recurring? Means the visitor that is coming back.
Okay, so in the stats currently we don't have new recurring because of the cookieless. So in theory, in cookieless tracking, there's not really a notion of visitors, just of visits. But we do have a hash now. So for example, you can see this visitor that visited twice because it's the same hash.
Mhm.
This is like this is debatable. So the problem is the idea of privacy, where you don't track a visitor across multiple days. And then there's also the need for having new versus recurrent visitors.
Yeah.
This can be added again with a tag to differentiate it if it's a new visitor or a recurring visitor. So one easy
So
way it's
there is a give and take. So if you want to track recurring visit, the person who is coming back, then you are going against GDPR or privacy
yeah,
laws,
yeah,
right?
in a way. Yes. In a way, you can even if you just store a hash, this is
Mm,
debatable. Like the law is still a bit unclear about what's private
mm,
data and what's not private data. And I think hashing of the IP is on the limit of that because you don't really know who the visitor is, but you know it's the same visitor. But this is not entirely accurate, but it can provide you a way to see like when the visitor initially came and when they purchased and how many days they visit. But as you
cool.
said, it's
So
a
Leo, I have a very long question. Try to, because we are already at 1 hour mark. So we have another 30 plus questions. So I think it will be impossible to go over all the questions, but there is a lot. Even right now, I'm in this position. There is another 23 questions added in. So there is a lot. So Leo asked that how do you compare, say, User Maven, Hockey Stack, or Google Analytics? I think you have already answered this. Why should someone use or WPLytics when they can just use, especially if GDPR compliance is not an issue? I think he answered his own questions in a way. Personally, I'm more concerned on how long it can keep the data as an agency with a number of clients that are on our performance marketing plans. So this is the important part. This is definitely the important part, that how long you can keep the data. So I guess at the end of the day, it's matter of storage and backup and archiving. Can I export the data for a site and move it to another server if the particular site is taking up too much resources? I think you have already answered this.
yes, it's possible. So even if GDPR compliance is not an issue, there's also like the vendor lock-in, the
Mm,
pricing, especially if you have a lot of data. If you use some platforms have enterprise data for like other like 100,000 sessions or 1 million sessions, they already have enterprise plans which cost a lot, like thousands of dollars per month. And with this one, if you do want like a powerful server, you can get one, and then it's like 50, 60 euros, and you can keep the data forever there for many years, and you can export it if you want. So even if GDPR compliance is not an issue, self-hosting is a lot more than GDPR. Self-hosting was, I think, even before GDPR. It's also the privacy of your own data. Like if you
Yeah.
care about
So I think Jonathan asked, can you track member areas? Is there anything you can track on client sites, like you can, or the local site where it's installed? I'm actually not completely sure that what is the question, but the first part of the question, can you track member areas? I think that should be possible.
so you can track any page where you install this script. If you can add the JavaScript to that area, then you can also track that. Yeah, this is mostly it. If you can add the tracking snippet to that page, then you can track it.
Leo also asked, can you consider letting us host the data on the cloud or have a way to export, backup, or restore data as needed? I think this is native WordPress database tables. You can export it as it is. Like if you back up your website using the database, it's the same process. You can just export one table from PHP MyAdmin, for example, or MySQL command line. You can automate it with a cron if you want.
You can also directly store the data. So if you already know you're going to use this different server, you can just go like DigitalOcean, new WordPress VPS, add the plugin there, and then you can directly track all the data there. So you can directly have it in the cloud already.
Okay. So any advanced segmentation options with WPLytic that allow users to drill down into highly specific audience demographics or behaviors, providing more insights for targeted improvements.
So we do have like the segment features, which allows you to create different filters for specific demographics. I don't know how in-depth you need it. We do provide some features for tags, refers, country, page, IP, and session length. But again,
then you can layer it. I can see there is a plus sign at the bottom. You can also create new segment.
So you can, like, for example, now I'm comparing the United States against, I don't know what's other country with a lot of visitors.
Malaysia, you can try Malaysia.
What's the code for Malaysia?
MY.
Yes, so you can compare. The flag looks pretty similar. You can compare. You can compare the like United States versus.
Yeah.
I forgot to rename the segments, but.
Okay, so there's sorry, I think I missed one. No. Okay, so the next one is how easy is to integrate with plugins such as Fluent CRM, Shortcut, Fluent Booking, LatePoint, etc. Any integration with A/B testing plugins or software?
No, so currently there's not a lot of integrations. We do because we recently released the platform, which mostly has the core analytics features. We want to see what people are interested in and then create integrations. One of the biggest requests now is with WooCommerce to automatically track sales without having to add a snippet. And for example, A/B testing plugins, this is something that you can add in the platform itself. So we do plan to provide more examples, but in general, with WPLytic, because you have all your data yourself, you don't really need a lot of other integrations. Because if you want something, you can usually add it to this platform. So if you want A/B test, you can just tag visitors with a specific version and then generate stats. But so all the integrations now can be added using the MySQL because it's a MySQL database. There's a lot of tools that connect to MySQL database, and then you can use that as an integration. I'm not very familiar with all the WordPress plugins. I do use WordPress, but in a very like mild way, mostly for static websites and some e-commerce, but I don't use a lot of plugins. So I'm really interested to see like what people are using and how we can integrate with this.
To answer to Leo also, I think we need to talk with Nitin. He's another founder who made the automation plugin is Flowmatic. So Flowmatic connects to Fluent CRM, Fluent Booking, and all these things. So if it can read the DB, and then your problem is solved. You can create a automation depending on on your needs. So Tallboy asks, how often does the analytics update? Hourly, real time, or weekly? It's basically real time.
Yes, the stats are not, so we don't automatically refresh the dashboard. This is also to serve resources on your page. We can add it's pretty easy to add in an update a setting to automatically refresh the dashboard. So
Victor also asked, yeah, in the context of e-commerce, how does WPLytic handle tracking and analytics for transactions without compromising customer privacy? Also, are there any integration with popular e-commerce platforms for WooCommerce?
okay, so we don't have any WooCommerce integration yet, and it's gonna be tracked, and first it's gonna be added. For sensitive data, it's mostly what you want to track. Like, so it's your decision what data you want to track. For example, this is how you would track like a shop event. You can, for example, add something like this, where you just track the product purchase and the values that you get from the shop. In the data, you could track whatever, but you could also track more sensitive info. If you want, you can track the username, the customer's address, and you can track data if you want. If they fill a form, you can add to track data after the form is filled to save all the. I mean, you can even use WPLytic to have a feedback form, and then you just store that data as an event in the database. So you can start. So it's not just an analytics platform for tracking stats. You can use it to create systems on it, like a feedback form. Like, did you like this page or not? You can show a button, and then you can tag the visitor with liked or disliked. So you can create your own systems, and with the data privacy, it's up to you what data you want to track.
So Jonathan has a very interesting question. There are some apps that look at the visitor details and shares what company they might be a part by checking their IPs. Does this gather information on those B2B visitors? I think you are kind of going against GDPR already or privacy laws. So all these companies that do this is basically not GDPR compliant, because you are not supposed to identify things. All this cookieless world that we are moving forward, it's supposed to not track things in a sense that can be identified. So even if it is a B2B, B2B is still an entity. It's still a human entity, even though it's a group of human. So yeah, or machine or whatever it is. So identifiable data, I think the whole system was designed not to gather identifiable data, because it's pretty strong that you can see in the settings, there are privacy options everywhere, right? That how you can fine tune it. So all these things, when you have, so you cannot play on the both side. It's a seesaw. So if you want to sit over here, this will go up. If you want to sit over here, this will go up. So you cannot be in the same stage in opposite direction. So you are talking in two different angles. So it didn't make sense to me.
But this question is about storing their IP. So it's up to you if you store their IP, and then if you want, you can use. There's probably databases. We don't provide this, which is which IP ranges are for which companies. If you want to see, hey, this visitor came from that company because the IP is usually used by that company. But you can, if you enable IP tracking and then use a
so
IP that.
He actually have a very good question. The same person, Jonathan. If we needed to migrate to a new server, is it easy to move from site to site? I think this will be a very common use case that we need to move server. So in that case, I think if you, in my lower understanding of this, because I haven't dig around so much of it, but in my common sense, what I can think, if I back up my entire website with the database and restore it to the new server in the same domain name, it should be working as it is. Christian, can you tell me if I'm right or wrong?
Yeah, that's correct. So normally it's the same as exporting your my WordPress. So if you export the database and put it on another server, then it just works. What you might have to update is like the tracking code if you put it on a different domain. So if initially you tracked it on mywordpress.com, so all the data was sent there, then you move it to another server, and all your domains still try to send data to the old website. You have to update your tracking code to send it. But it's mostly just MySQL, so you can export the database and then import it. We do plan to also add more export and import functionality. But for now, it's just a basic MySQL.
We also have a question then: how does WPLytic indicator for content creators, helping them understand audience engagement and preferences for optimizing their content strategy. I think that is a very high level question. Mainly, that is on our side how we want to crunch the data. We have the data, you have the pointers, you can figure out that, okay, where was my funnel? So if you wanted to sell something, so Christian can talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, so this is mostly a generic analytics data of I have all this data, what do I know, what do I do now? So it's usually pretty easy if you want to test different hypotheses. So for example, you want to know where your sales are coming from, then you can tag the visitors that converted, and then let's see here if you have a checkout. So you have a visitor that converted are tagged, let's see, with checkout. So users that click the checkout multi-site. So let's just have all of them. And then we can see where the visitors came from. So you can see they came from Facebook. So then you can use this data. Okay, the users that clicked, that wanted to buy, they came from Facebook. Then maybe I should go and like promote the product more on Facebook. So you can usually test those hypotheses where you see where your like what users are doing, and you find users that do what you want to do, and see where they come from, and then bring more from that.
I think you have the Leo got a question that you have already answered, if I'm not mistaken. Does our WPLytic gets blocked by ad blockers? If yes, is there any server-based measurement like Facebook has a conversion API?
So WPLytic is not blocked as far as I know by ad blockers. So the script name is not blacklisted. And if it was, if you want to avoid that, you can actually change the script name because it's just an include, and you're not forced to include Google's, I don't know, it's called gtag.js. You can just name it whatever you want, and then most likely ad blockers
I can even give another tips. You can create a cron job to change the code and touch the code for the include and rename it to a random random name every 1 hour. So yeah, you can dodge ad blockers. Ad blockers are pretty dumb, to be honest. So
and if there's any server-based measurements,
no,
I'm not sure about the second part of the question. So
I think what he asked, I can understand that he's saying that whether there's on the application side there is any mechanism that it will change the file name automatically every day or every hour or whatever it is. But it can generate, if you have a side caching system, it will generate 404 a lot.
yeah, I mean it's so for now this is not an issue. It's not blocked by ad blockers, so this is not even an issue. But I'm not sure the second part. What was that was it about changing the script name, or the second part was
Mabel
about
asked the session length. How do we know they are actively checking the website? They may just be open the page. So I think you have shown me a filter that how many seconds they have been on the site.
Yeah, that's true. I think Mabel also refers if they just keep the page open without doing anything, then they might still have a larger session length. But from my experience, usually if you keep because it's JavaScript, if you keep the browser in a background tab, then the requests are not really sent unless you go back. So sometimes they do actually have to be on your website.
Yeah.
And one thing that's actually in the examples, it's with tags. It's a simple tag that I added with the, there's not the example here, the full example, I can put it. You can add a tag if the user scrolled, then tag the user that the user scrolled. And as soon as the user scrolled, because most websites have a scroll bar, they did some activity, they just not open the website. So you can add small snippets like this if you're really interested in just user activity.
So Moses asked, multi-site plan means multiple external sites, not WordPress AMU multi-site. Yes, it's multiple external sites, not AMU.
Yes, sir. So it means you get this dashboard where you can track any other domain here. So this is what you get. It's not related to WordPress multi-site.
So Leo also asked, any plans for the API that we can access the data from other application ourselves?
Yes, this is the API is actually a high priority now for multiple reasons, but we do plan to provide an API as soon as possible. you can still connect it to other applications from the MySQL database directly,
Mhm.
but maybe that's not as secure as just having a dedicated API, not as easy. So for now, MySQL, but API is planned.
Victor also got another question for users who operate in multiple regions. How does WPLytic handle language-specific analytics, and are there features for segmenting data based on language preferences?
Again, we don't do anything out of the box for a lot of filtering, but
Mhm.
if you want, you can always add a tag. I think you can get, it's called like in the browser, navigator user locally or something like that, which is the language of the
Mhm.
browser. So you can just add this line of code, add tag with the navigator local language or something like that. And then you're gonna see as a tag in the visitors list. So I don't know, does this work? Yes. So then, for example, you're gonna have tags like this.
Yep.
So you know the visitor had the German language, and then if you click on it, and you can generate stats from visitors with that locally. So this is another way to filter data, but we don't add a lot of filtering out of the box because we don't know
Mm.
what you need, and we don't want to store a lot of
So
unnecessary data.
Mabel also asked, can we track based on click, link, scrolling, videos? And she also asked outbound link means external links.
If you want
So
to, it's the same answer as before. So we don't provide a lot of out of the box because
mhm.
everything it's very easy to done. We do
And you
provide
can
to
tag it.
add
Yeah.
more tutorials. Then like it's mostly like the tags feature, which is the most powerful thing because it's very simple to use, and then you can choose what data you want to filter and how you filter it. Because then you can add as complex rules as you want. If you want only outbound links to a specific link, if you want, then you
Mm.
can tag the visitor that they went to Facebook page.
Does this have any conflicts with caching plugins like Lightspeed Cache or WP Rocket and all those things?
It might like cache the data that you see in the database, might cache the MySQL queries, and then you see all older data. What you can do is go to the caching plugin settings and add the path of WPLytic as an exception. So you say, I don't want to cache this part of the website. I think most caching plugins have some exclusion filter. Then you're going to see always real-time data in your dashboard.
Okay, so the next question is earlier I asked about GDPR, and one thing that important is not just the sharing, but also the user's ability to delete their data or export their data. If there is a pop-up that stop tracking or a piece of code to put into other software that allows user to deny cookies.
Yes,
I
so
think there is
we do
something
have
like that. Yeah.
yes, we do have an optional tracking consent pop-up. So if you
Yeah.
enable it, then users will get a pop-up and the tracking only start based on that. About deletion is actually tricky because we don't store the user and the user says, hey, delete my data, but you
Mhm.
don't know what data is his. So it's very hard. So because you don't store the personal data,
Mm.
you cannot really, the user cannot ask for the data to be deleted because we don't know which one is your data. So this is,
So
yeah, if you don't know which one is his data, then it's not personal data because you don't know.
yeah. Will it not overload the database? Can it connect to separate database? If not, it would be feasible to have this option.
Yeah, we discussed this before. It can connect to
Mhm.
different database. By default, it uses the WordPress database, and you can also just install it on a separate WordPress website, and then add the tracking snippet. This is mostly
Mm.
for the multi-site one. The multi-site, you can set it on a separate server and then
Yeah.
track multiple domains.
Can you track the visitor's journey? So this is, I was thinking earlier, but I lost track of it, that visitor's journey. So tracking what pages people are arriving to and what other pages they visit means, so somebody landed on the home page and they went to an article. From there, they went to another page.
Okay, so if you go to the visitor section, this is actually
Oh,
ordered by, this is exactly,
in that order. Okay.
yes, so we made sure they're ordered correctly. So this
Uh-huh.
visitor came from Google, from Vietnam, came from Google, visited the homepage, blog, contact, data privacy homepage. So this is why I really like this screen, because you see the entire visitor journey for like multiple visitors in one panel. So at a glance, you quickly see what the visitor did on your website.
Okay. Do you promise to keep improving this product for sufficient number of years?
That's our plan. We did, as I said, this is already, even though it's a new product, the systems behind it have been under works for like 10 years with a lot of user feedback and testing and testing live on live servers and making sure it works on different configurations. And we do have new features planned, especially like the ChatGPT integration that we said we really want to release it very soon, like this month.
So
And we
Mabel
do
asked,
have
I think I did not see page views over time on the dashboard. Can please consider so we can see the page performance? Is it
what's for
page
a
views
specific
over time?
page.
Yeah.
I guess you could filter by page, and then you can see all the
Uh,
that went to the blog. So this is, I'm not sure if it's the same stat. Wait, so this is all, and this is the blog. Yeah, so I guess from all the visitors, you can see the people that visited the blog, if this is what you're asking.
Yeah, I think page views over time. This should be it,
Yeah, and it's
if I'm
like
not
this is
mistaken.
this is the page views. Those are the visits, the page views. Yeah, I think this is that stat that you're asking for.
If we use your product, what changes we have to make in our policies to stay compliant with regulatory policies?
So it depends on your jurisdiction. You might want to enable or disable specific tracking features, but by default, I haven't heard of anyone have any issues. First of all, because it's self-hosted, like the big deal with GDPR is data sharing, because most of the data that you get is probably more than WPLytic tracks, because your server already has like server logs, which probably no one really cares to make sure they don't store IPs, which they do. So sometimes the server, anyway, your server stores more sensitive data than WPLytic. So if you're really worried about your own data being compliant, you usually have to do it at the server level, because WPLytic doesn't store a lot of extra sensitive information unless you manually add like a tag or a purchase event where you store the data. So we do provide different tracking settings. And again, I'm not a lawyer, and this law is pretty new and it keeps changing. But
Yeah. So Leo also asked, can we
this is
integrate
a
with
lot
CRM
better than
plugins,
hosting.
especially the user journey, perhaps via WP Fusion? Maybe you can take a note on this one.
Yes, I can take a note of the WP. I'm not really familiar with all the platforms, but most of them give you a way to access the user ID.
Yes.
Like
So
there's
most of the
a
time it will be something like webhooks or API, and then you can feed them the details and they can plot it into other places. Basically,
yeah.
kind of
So
automation. Yeah.
yeah, what some people do, they just like tag the user ID. So
Mm-hmm.
then again, using tags, you have that user ID, which is
Mm-hmm.
the same as the one in the CRM, and then you can link the data.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So Bravely asked, how does it affect how the database affect the websites? Will it make the website slow?
In general, web WPLytic is very lightweight. So if your server can handle your normal amount of traffic, this doesn't add a lot more. And yeah, it depends on how much traffic you get. But I assume if you already get like millions of sessions, then you already have a good server. So in general, it uses the same stack as WordPress, or WordPress already does a lot of queries. This just adds one more simple query.
Yeah.
We made sure that all the tables are correctly indexed, so the data is stored quickly. And
So the last question
you can try.
for today's live, because it's already we are crossing the 1 hour,
It's
30-minute mark.
already one and
Yeah.
a half.
So this is the last question. How many clients once launched dashboard can be created? Means on a multi-site license like
So
this.
on
So what is there any
multi-site,
limit?
so on the multi-site license, you have, let's see, just a multi-user system included, okay? But you can create a limited number of, track unlimited domains and create unlimited number of users and assign them domains. So it's unlimited domains and unlimited users. The only like catch
So
is because some
now
people are
I'm going to
confused.
put a tough pressure on him. So after all this Q&A, beautiful questions from the community. I haven't seen this type of like so much detailed questions from the community members. So thank you for that. Now is the time. So I will ask, because we are doing live in multiple groups on YouTube, so it's not easy for me to actually dig down on the comments and collect all of them. Rather, I will ask Christian, which question that knocked you, means you felt that it was a very useful or product related question that you can remember. Then we will dig out who is that person.
That's pretty hard. There are so many questions, a lot of good
Yeah.
ones. But I think one was interested because there was something we didn't consider before. I think it was from Mabel. She asked
Who?
Mabel, or what's her name?
Mabel. Yeah, Mabel I.
Mabel.
Yeah.
Mabel, yeah. Because she asked about the subdomains, if the license applies to like
Yes.
subdomains. And that's a good question that we haven't considered before, and we have to think about it and see what
Yeah.
use cases
So
are.
Mabel, get ready. So Mabel is going to. So this is a multi-site license. You can have as many sites you want to track. So
Yes.
don't miss this opportunity. That's a very nice one. Nice one. So let's see if everyone is talking about this or not. Okay. Effect on that. Mabel, you better be on the chat. If you are not here, then you are not getting this.
Just here.
So again, congratulations, Mabel, for winning this, and congratulations Christian for launching the product. And I am really eager. So what I am on my side, what my plan is, I have a lot of demo sites. So one of them I will put. So it is basically shared hosting. It's on a 4 GB VPS with SSD. So I will put it there. And what I will do, I will tag the script in multiple different sites. Those are live sites. So what I wanted to check that how it grows in terms of database, and the performance on the site, on the shared site. Looking at the initial impression, it was pretty fast and lightweight. That is what caught my attention when I did the initial installation and I ran the dashboard. It was like snappy, even on a very small shared server. The server you have seen before the show, the WP2.xyz, is just 1 GB RAM and one virtual CPU core. So it's pretty limited. So with that, it did work well. So Mabel, you can contact me and I will.
Do you have to contact me for
Yeah.
the license? Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Christian, for the time. And you have gone through so many difficult questions, to be honest. So best of luck. And whether I think at some point you want to submit it to Product Hunt, and then we can come back to live and talk about new things that is getting added on. In the meantime, is there any roadmap or anything on the website? I forgot to check.
Yes, we do have a different subdomain. It's like feedback.wplytic.com. I think it's on. So this one, I think it's also on the landing page at the top.
Okay.
There's
Yeah, I
a
forgot
roadmap.
to check.
You click on it, and here we have a lot of different suggestions that are already added.
Yeah.
And you can also add your own suggestions. So if you have any idea, and you can vote on the existing ones, and usually try to prioritize the ones that are most voted.
Yeah.
So if you have any ideas, suggestions, or bug reports, please add them here on feedback.
Oh, that is interesting. You are planning for a main WP plugin?
Yes, some people are requesting it.
Yes.
We have
So
to
I
look
also
into
use main WP. I manage about 35 to 40 websites there. So these can help a lot. I'm pretty sure this can help a lot.
Yes, that's also planned.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And even if you are watching it from YouTube, even you are watching it from Facebook or whichever, you can always go to YouTube. The link is here, and you can find all our live shows there. And I want to thank everyone from Facebook and YouTube. You have spent this much of time today. Hopefully it was fruitful. Hopefully a lot of your questions get answered. And let me hide the screen. Okay. And thank you, Christian, for giving this much of time to actually clear up these questions.
I mean,
Thank you
I
so
was
much.
enjoying it, so I didn't see how the time flew. So
Yes,
thanks,
yes,
Rouhani,
exactly.
and also thanks for your community. A lot of really good questions, really
Yes,
informed questions.
they do know things. I mean, we
Smart
have some
people.
community that, you know, they are hardcore, like Asif and Mabel. They are really hardcore development things they can do. So yes, they're a very good audience in our
Yeah,
communities.
really good questions. Really
Yes.
good for us to
So
know what
do you want
people are
to
interested in.
tell something that about the future and how you're going to go about it? Then we can say bye to the audience.
Okay, so yeah, thanks everyone. So currently we're running on deal on our website because we're just launching. So we're having it also happened to be like this public launcher on Black Friday. So it's a Black Friday deal. We give it as a lifetime deal now. So on the website, you get lifetime updates. The normal pricing, you actually have to pay yearly for updates. This is how the company will be sustainable because some people ask, what do you promise that you're going to work for years? That's the plan. This is why we're going to have the yearly paid updates. But for now, because it's the launch, we have an LTD with the lifetime updates, which you can get on the website through Rouhani's link. And yeah, we do hope to hear like more questions like this. We do really want to improve the product. We really think this is something that's needed and useful and better for both the owners of the websites and also for the users to not have all the data sent to like Google and Google knowing what everyone does on the web. And
Yep.
it's allowed to have the data stored in different places, each one keeping their own private data.
Yep.
I think
Thank you, Christian.
thank you
So have a wonderful day ahead. I think you are just entering into the late afternoon, and right, it is about
yes,
late afternoon, and for me it's about midnight. So I will say good night
bedtime.
from here, and
Good night.
have a wonderful day ahead. Bye.
You know, bye everyone.